So over this last weekend, Undernight Imbreth 2 Sis Celeste, man that's a fucking mouthful, had its open beta test, and I've been a huge fan of this game ever since its last installment. I didn't get into it for that long, but I very much so enjoyed my time with it, so much so that this instantly became one of my favorite fighting game franchises of all time. So when Undernight Imbreth 2 got announced at this last Evo, I was absolutely ecstatic, so here's everything that I thought about Undernight Imbreth 2 from the beta test. Let's start by talking about one of the most important factors of a fighting game to make it fun, enjoyable, and for it to last, the netcode. Which, if you're not aware, Undernight Imbreth 2 does have rollback netcode, and in my experience, it's pretty damn good. Out of all my games, I think I only had like one laggy match, so there's definitely no complaints there for me. But let's start talking about actual gameplay. So I am a Byakuya player. I don't know what that means about me. I think he might be pretty good. He did win Evo 2018, I'm pretty sure. But I absolutely love this character. It's actually why I love Undernight so much. I just fell in love with the character, and it led to me falling in love with the game. So when it comes to his changes, I might not be the best person to talk about this, considering the fact I'm an absolutely huge Undernight fan, but I might not be as deep into the scene as some of you watching or other people who were in the beta test. But let's talk about Byakuya's biggest change and what might be his only change. He has a new move. It's a 2-2 input, and it's him having spikes come out of the ground, which is going to be really good. You can catch people like at full screen, mid screen, and close range. Undernight is sort of known for having huge and outrageous buttons, not with a certain character or a certain group of characters, really just with the entire roster. It's sort of like a funny gimmick. So this additional move to Byakuya's move kit, speaking of which, Byakuya already had pretty damn good normals, like good reaching, good everything really. So just having this extra resource is gonna definitely help you control space a lot better. But this was just a beta test, so not everything was found. We didn't get the chance to really get used to everything, so I'm sure when the game fully comes out, we'll be able to find better ways to use this button. Not just with Byakuya, but just for anybody who got a new button. And of course, I do need to mention that new moves are not at all exclusive to Byakuya. I'm pretty sure the entire base roster at least had something new added to them. I say base roster because obviously we have those two new characters, Kaguya and Tsurugi, with Kaguya looking absolutely sick. I know, speaking personally, that once this game fully releases, there's definitely a handful of characters I'm going to want to jump into the lab with. I do want to talk a bit more on Undernight's specific game mechanics. In fact, you watching this are more than likely a fighting game fan, and you might have just known about Undernight, not known about Undernight, or not gotten that into Undernight, because in fact it is sort of a smaller game in comparison to other stuff like Guilty Gear, Tekken, and you might have seen a streamer you like play the game over the weekend, you know, Sajam, Sonic, anyone really, and it might have gotten you more interested in the game. So here's stuff you need to know if you're considering playing Undernight Imbreth 2. Let's start off by talking about the grid system of the game, which might seem minor, but is one of the most important aspects of the game to ensure you actually win your matches. And funny enough, it sort of works like tug of war. There's a set timer. I probably should have actually seen what that timer is, but there is a set timer. At the end of it, you can sort of do this special cancel, and you're going to be able to use this cancel for optimizing your combos for more damage or doing some absolutely fucked up mix-ups. I feel like I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, but Undernight is definitely a very mix-up oriented game as well as a very fast-paced game. So how do you properly manage your grid to ensure that you win the grid battle as much as you can? Really doing anything actually. Besides getting hit, that is. The way you directly charge up your grid is going to be with your D button, which comes preset at X or A, but you can't change the button to anything. But remember that D is the way you charge up your grid, and you actually do charge up every now and again in an actual match. Besides that, your grid is just going to build up over the game by playing a good game, you know, having good defense, good offense, having good anything really. I'm sure now Undernight might seem like a very snowbally, maybe unfair, at times maybe even overwhelming game, but that's where your defensive tools come into play, such as reverse shield. By doing 2D, you're going to pull out your reverse shield, which will be your best friend when you're defending in this game, and will even have a direct impact on the grid. So what is your reverse shield? It sort of just fucks with your opponent's offense. There are a handful of moves or specific block strings with every character, which if you block normally, you're going to be negative and continue to either block or get your dome piece cracked. But if you use your reverse shield on it, then you're going to be positive and be able to get a proper punish. So if you're looking to get into Undernight, you're definitely not going to be able to skip out on your homework. You're going to have to learn a lot about every character, not just your own. What you're seeing here is a proper example of me using my reverse shield. I was fighting a Linné player, and seeing how it's been a while since I played Undernight, I was sort of getting cooked by this move. But over time, I just learned, dude, fucking reverse shield it, and I'm good. And of course, you know, then that was when the real meta game started. And I really can't recommend you one to focus on when you're learning, because, I mean, they're both so equally important. I get that some people are more defensive players, so they might want to focus on the reverse shield, and I get it because it will help you a lot more defensively. You'll be able to punish a lot more, and overall in the actual game, you're going to be a lot more of a defensive monster. But something I should mention is that your reverse shield can get broken, and when it does, you get punished. But on the other hand, I also can't tell you to focus on the grid more than on your reverse shield, because again, the grid is super important. It might seem like a minor thing, but again, it's just not. And grid, again, super important. You'll be able to get more meter, better block strings, a lot of damage on your combos, but focusing on it a lot more than your reverse shield isn't really the best advice in my opinion. Seeing how when your back is actually against the wall, your turn is over, now it's their turn to play, and you don't know how to use your reverse shield, then let me tell you, man, that grid battle, you're gonna lose it, and you probably could have won it if you knew how to use your reverse shield better. You can use your special cancel defensively, but that's not always gonna work, and you're not always gonna have the resources for that to work. So why take that risk and only focus on using your grid when you can just learn both and be that much better of a player? To me, those are the two most important tools, but there are other game mechanics which I will quickly go over now. Firstly, you do have a burst, and you can use it in combos to extend your combos, but you cannot use it when you are getting comboed. It's not like Guilty Gear. And I use it specifically as a get off me tool. I think it is an absolutely great get off me tool. But now let's talk a bit about supers, because they work sort of uniquely. There are basically EX versions of all your special moves, but there are specific supers, and supers are unique to each character, so whoever you're playing, just find out how to super with them. Each character does have their one big super. Seeing it here, you might be able to tell it works in a bit of an interesting way, because they have to be in a specific range for it to work. It doesn't work from anywhere. Oh yeah, and you sort of have to be in a specific health range for it to work. I'm pretty sure it's 30%. When you're 30% health or lower, that's when this super becomes available to you. And seeing how it doesn't work from anywhere and it has the gimmick of being in a specific range for it to work, I recommend making a specific combo just to be able to super out of it. Cause let me tell you, man, dropping a super and losing the game, that feeling's gonna suck if it happens. And I think that about does it. I'm pretty sure I didn't forget anything, so now you know the basics and you're gonna be ready for Undernight Inbirth 2 when it releases this January. My closing thoughts, this was already a game I was incredibly excited for, so after this beta, I'm just that much more excited. But with everything being said and done, I've been Rui. See ya.